What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another deck profile. And I know I deck profiled this deck last week, but this is not just pure Monarchs. This is a 45 card variant that I talked to one of my viewers in the comment section of last video, or of last week's profile for this deck, about I might just become a Monarch duelist at this point. This has been one of my favorite decks to play because I can sit here and test it, and I always get like different hands. This deck does brick a little bit, and your choice if you want to throw in some like consistency boosters, or shave this deck down to 40 cards, because there are some tech options in here that I have that I don't really know how everybody else will feel about, especially with the ratios. But let's get right into this deck profile for 45 card Draco Monarchs. Starting us off with our Squires, we obviously have the 3 Edia and the 2 Eidos. I completely cut out Mithra, so these are the only lower than level four or lower summons in the deck. If you want, you could go up to 3 Eidos. You could throw the Mithra back in. That's all up to you. That's preference. I've had a lot of fun with 5, non-tribute normal summons in the deck, because it just works with the Dracos. Because if you draw Dracos, but you also draw like your spells and traps, you still have a normal summon for that turn, and it can really shift the duel into your favor with just the Dracos. So that's all I'm running for the Squire monsters, is 3 Edia and 2 Eidos. Next, we have our Monarch monsters, which are going to be triple Aether, and instead of two Erebus, let me move those guys over. Let me move the Aethers over just a little bit so I can display all of these. We have the 1 copy of Erebus instead of 2. I opted to go for 1 because you can summon it off of Aether, and then it gets it to your hand. So you summon it for a turn, and then you just get, to put it back in your hand. So next turn you can rip a card out of your opponent's hand, or you can smack a card off your opponent's board. The next Monarch we're playing is 1 copy of Zaborg, the Mega Monarch. If you tribute summon him using a light monster, you can, if he's tribute summoned, you can target a monster on the board, pop it, and then each player banishes cards out of their extra deck equal to the level of that monster destroyed. And if he was tribute summoned using a light, he gains an additional effect where you choose what you banish from your opponent's extra deck, which is really strong against extra deck heavy decks. Because what you can do is you can normal summon Zaborg, and after summoning Zaborg, you pop himself, which is 8 cards because he's a level 8. And then if you tribute him using a light monster, so let's say you tributed like an Aether or something, or you use the field spell to make him only a 1 tribute monster and tributed Edia, you would then be able to pop himself, and since he's level 8, you get to banish 8 cards out of your opponent's extra deck. Really strong, but only out of 1 of, because he's searchable. And then the 1 copy of Karaz. This is going to be your main target for Aether's effect, because you're going to Aether to dump your 2 Monarch spell or traps, and then you're going to summon Karaz. Karaz can either pop 2 cards you control to let you draw 2, or pop a mix of 1 card you control and 1 card your opponent controls, or 2 cards your opponent controls. But do know, whoever owns the cards that he pops, they get to draw cards. So my favorite thing is to use him in tandem. Like, if I'm going second and I can like get away to where I can freely combo off, I can then Karaz to pop 2 Draco spell traps and then pop cards my opponent controls with the Draco spell traps. And I get to draw a card, so it's like high advantage values. And that is it for the Monarch monsters. I know, very small Monarch monster package. 6 Monarchs for 5 Squires. There's not a lot of monsters in this deck, guys. I'm going to tell you that much. And then for our spells, we obviously have the 3 Pantheism, 3 Domain. I'm running 3 Return, which is how you're going to search your Monarch monsters, and 3 Tenacity. So Return can, fun little fact, Return can actually search one of the Draco monsters that I run, and Tenacity can actually utilize that for extra advantage. Return is also another card I like to pair with Karaz, because you tribute summon Aether, and then you trigger the return effect off the tribute summon for Aether. So you get to search for a Monarch stat monster, and then you get to summon Karaz, which then can pop itself and return, since return is a hard once. Or you can pop return in another card and then get your Karaz back to your hand, so next turn you can normal summon Karaz and get more cards. Obviously, Pantheism, probably the most broken card in this deck. It's a free +1. Granted, the card it gives you as the +1 is chosen by your opponent, but when you run 3 copies of cards that you want, like 3 copies of every card that you want in your hand, like 3 copies of Domain, you just reveal triple Domain, or 3 copies of Return if you want Return, 3 copies of Tenacity. You know, the Pantheism is just a free +1, even though it does give your opponent hand knowledge of what you have by 1 card. Next, for the traps, we are running triple of the Monarch's Erupt. Obviously, a skill drain, really strong for having a tribute summon monster. Having a skill drain is amazing because skill drain is limited to 1 on the ban list, and it has slightly easier conditions to meet, and it doesn't self-destruct like this does if you don't control a tribute summon monster during your next end phase. But it's a skill drain for anything that isn't tribute summoned, which is amazing in the current meta because nobody's really tribute summoning. Next, we have 2 copies of the Prime Monarch. Just puts itself on the board as a free body by banishing a Monarch spell or trap out of the graveyard. And then 2 Escalation, which lets you tribute summon on your opponent's turn by flipping this up, which is why I'm like, yeah, you could run, or if you open with the Zoborg and you get its tribute off, and then you pop it to banish 8 cards, you can then, if you have a Draco monster in your hand, which is more than likely, you can just activate this tribute, or you can activate Escalation, tribute Escalation for one of your Draco monsters, and sit on that. Like, or you could tribute your leftover, like, Eidos, if you have leftover Eidos. Just really good card. I wouldn't run it at any more than 2 because 1, it's searchable, 2, it's kind of bricky because it only works when you flip it up to activate it, and that's the only time it gets its effect off. Next, we have 2 copies of Ignis Heat. He is your spell card search. He searches your spells. He either adds it to your hand or activates it straight out of the deck. So, right. Yes. Then we have 2 copies of Majesty Maiden. Ignis is searchable, by the way. He's 2,400, 1,000 attack. So he's searchable in this deck. Majesty Maiden, just even more search power for Dracos. Anytime, all of them have the effect that whenever your opponent activates any effect, doesn't have to be a monster effect, if they activate any kind of effect, you can quick effect do one thing. He searches your traps, she searches your monsters, and then we have the 1 copy of Dynamite Fighter, since he's still at 1 on the ban list, who gets you your trap cards. I just noticed this is not focused. There we go. I am so sorry, that wasn't focused the whole video. I am so sorry, but at least I'm telling you the names of the cards, right? um, yeah, here's your spell searcher, here's your monster searcher, and here's your trap searcher. Um, and that is it for the Draco monsters. I know not a whole lot of monsters in this deck, guys. Next we have our 2 copies of Heritage and our 1 copy of Disciples. I cut Disciples down to 1 because its effect doesn't really resolve, and having it in multiples, yeah, it gives you more tribute fodder for your Dracos, and it gives you more destruction fodder for Karaz, but you already have plenty of that in this deck. You really do. And Heritage is honestly just better because, well, if or you just activate it and you can draw cards equal to the number of Draco or True Draco or True King cards tributed this turn. So like if a True Draco monster was tributed and a True Draco spell was tributed in the same turn, you could draw 2 cards. Boom. Sadly, it's not a quick effect, so you can't just gain that advantage on your opponent's turn. But yeah, that's it for the Draco spells. And then for the traps, I know we have return back to 2. So, I would probably replace, in this deck, I would probably replace one of your copies of Escalation, maybe, with a 2nd return. Or you could replace one copy of one of the next cards we're going to be talking about in the generic section of the video with another copy of Return. But this is what I have because this is what it was before the ban list. 1 Return, 1 Apocalypse. I don't think Apocalypse is on the ban list. Same thing with Disciples. I think the only Draco cards on the ban list are Masterpiece and Dynamite Fighter. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comment section below. I am more than open to hearing criticism and hearing card suggestions, and I will reply to you. I don't know how often I will reply to you, but I did have a very, very nice conversation with somebody in the last video, and I really do appreciate you for commenting and replying to my replies so often. I'm sorry I didn't reply to your last reply. I just didn't know what to say. But yeah, 1 Return, 1 Apocalypse. Sorry, I had to grab a drink. And that is it for the True Draco traps. Now for the generic cards that I'm running. We have triple Vanity's Fiend and double Majesty's Fiend. Majesty's Fiend is searchable in this deck, and it's 2,400 and 20 because it's 24 and 1,000. Vanity's Fiend is sadly 200 defense points too high to be searched in this deck, which is why I run it at 3. This prevents special summons, and this prevents monster effects from being activated. So he's like a pseudo skill drain. He can stop Nibiru, but this deck doesn't summon more than 4 times in a turn. So Nibiru is never really live against this deck. You could technically summon 5 times, but it's not worth it. If you can set up your board within like 3-4 summons, maximum 4, this deck is just, it makes Nibiru a constantly dead card. But what you could do is replace either 1 copy of Majesty's Fiend or 1 copy of Vanity's Fiend with another copy of True King's Return. So any of these could be another copy of True King's Return because that's back at 2. And that, my friends, will conclude the deck profile for today. So let me resort this bad boy out and I will get back to you. And I'm back. Sorry, I actually had to run to my room. I know that was literally like a second for you guys, but I was getting worried because my phone likes to back out to the home screen on its own whenever I'm just sitting here. I do have a small side deck. The side deck right now is the 2nd copy of Disciples, a 2nd copy of Apocalypse, a 3rd copy of Majesty's Fiend, The second copy of Erebus, I don't have enough sleeves for the entire side deck, but it's fine. The one copy of Mithra and one more copy of Majesty Maiden. You could side in, or you could also put in the side deck the Draco field spell. I was trying to find my copy of the Draco field spell for this deck profile, because what I was going to do was I was going to actually take out, the one nope, not of him. The one copy of Fiend, or Vanity's Fiend, to put in the Draco field spell for extra searches and free pops, but I couldn't find it. And then I don't have a second copy of the or of True King's Return. So but yeah. Anyways, that's the deck. Let me tidy up this pile right here. Majesty Maiden is such a nice looking card. I like a lot of the Draco cards. They look really good. And that's the deck, guys. 45 card Draco Monarchs. With my twist on it. You could definitely throw in cards like Dark Ruler, Ash Blossom, you name it. Replace some of the other cards in this deck with, you know, better cards. In my opinion, I don't like hand traps. I am sick of this hand trap meta. And with Called By at 1 on the ban list, I don't agree with it. I know supposedly there was a card that was supposed to act like Called By, but worse. And I think that was XZ's Import. But Called By should have come back on that last ban list to 3. Because why was it hit in the first place? Like, come on. But yeah, that's my 45 card Draco Monarch. If you guys are new here, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Next week there will not be a video because I will be out of town. In fact, for the next for 2 weeks after today, there won't be any videos or streams because I will be out of town. Or well, I'll be out of town next week, but I'll be back in town before the week after. But I'll have family down visiting, so I'm not going to record or stream. But yeah, if you guys are new, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Turn on that bell. We are 9 subs away from hitting 100 before the end of this year. This year has been crazy for many reasons, and my channel growth is one of them. Like, my channel skyrocketed in the middle of the year. Like, I went from 40 subs all the way up to 80, and we've been here at 90 for the last 2 months. We are actually at 91, which is like so close to 100. If you guys could please share these videos with your friends who are just getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot of my decks are meant for budget. I know some cards in these aren't very budgetary, and I don't really have budget options, but so if you look at some of my older deck profiles, they're very budgety. Not my Blue Eyes ones, God no. But like Pure Dynamists, after Electromite got banned, that's a budget deck. Like, Dynamist itself is a budget deck. But anyways, like I said, if you're new, subscribe, click that bell, like this video if you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, let me know why down in the comment section below, and I will reply to you. But I am a very open person about these decks. You guys let me know card suggestions, and I will definitely reply to you, and I will definitely try to get my hands on those cards. Right now, I'm not in a not very good monetary position because I don't have a job. I lost my job because of quarantine. Yeah. It was bad. It's been bad, and I haven't been able to find a new job. I've been searching for a while. Which is why I've wanted to start a Patreon. I need to stop rambling. You guys are probably sick and tired of hearing my voice. You've probably skipped through this video and not actually watched it and not actually cared about the cards. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you do watch the video all the way to the end, you're a god, an Egyptian god to be exact, and I will see you all in the next video in 2 weeks, or in 3 weeks actually. Peace.